as we begin to move into a relationship with the Divine Presence, it is good to know and to understand that this is a journey of light. This is a journey where light-filled ways begin to harmonize their resonance into your life. For this is the spirit of love awakening from within. And remembering this is what is fundamental to the expression and the experience of this unfolding. And this is not a memory that we place in the files of our computer to dig out occasionally and look at and intellectualize about its presence or how we felt about it as an experience. This is an ongoing expression of an energetic form that is beginning to live within its own expression. So it is, in a way, becoming alive within our being, within the body itself. And understanding this as an experience of the energy of a soul beginning to widen its experience and open its eyes into the brilliance of the light, where it can see further and understand more and begin to understand the relationship that it has with this divine presence. And this is a relationship that moves through different frequencies as it lifts itself and broadens itself and begins to express itself in waves, in motion, in light. And as we embody this naturally, as it begins to awaken itself in the body and in the soul simultaneously, for there can be no separation, it is always happening. And as we are used to experiencing and expressing ourselves through an intellectual filter, a training, an accumulation of experiences from the desire realms, this is where the remembering becomes alive. It becomes a living experience. For the light begins to enable us to comprehensively enjoy its presence without having to think about it, without having to make something of it, without having to do anything about it. And by simply allowing it to be and agreeing that this is an experience that is beautifully human, that is beautifully creative, that is beautifully intelligent, that is beautifully synchronistic with the expression of life on earth. On this earth that is connected and interconnected with as a universal experience. This is a planet connected and interconnected into galaxies. And as we begin to feel and sense this relationship, it allows us to understand who we really are and how we can be alive and aligned to this expression and experience, and begin to understand that the frequencies that are available to us are being established in a way that has rarely or perhaps never been experienced in many cases through human expression, as it is now, as the opportunities arise. This is something that is becoming. It is being established. It is being constructed. It is being manifested. And as the frequencies build, and as we become established and move into the flow of these frequencies, it allows us to be less encumbered by what we have been taught, by what we have been told, by what we have been given to understand. So as we flow, as we begin to hear and to listen more deeply and to resonate with this and to quietly experience this, it allows our mind to give in, to let go of its microscopic examination of everything and everyone. And as it becomes attuned to the frequencies, as the mind becomes less intrusive, less demanding, then the spaciousness of this allows for creativity to expand. For there is no need to sit and become still to the point where nothing is happening. We are beings of light, and as so we have the ability to create and to express ourselves and to harmonize ourselves and to begin to understand that there are ways of expression that we can build upon and be healed through and begin to understand one another as beings of light. And this is the experience that is unfolding right here, right now. The beginning, the knowledge, the love, the beauty that we hold within ourselves is opening up and is becoming. So here we are in this field of endeavor, where there is an expression of light, which can be nurtured and experienced in whatever form you may choose, through listening, through watching, through visualizing, and through feeling. There is no need to overanalyze this experience. There is no need to examine it minutely. It is something to behold. to be felt. And whatever arises from this is whatever arises. And so be it. For it is not something to be unduly involved in. It is an experience of light. And the amplitude of light-filled waves beginning to express itself through human interaction. And if you can just be with this and be aligned to this and to feel this and to sense this without needing to pass a judgment or make a call on its destiny or some other attitude that needs or may need to be adopted. It is just allowing the light of love to be present, to acknowledge it, to say yes, to welcome it, to bring it into your life as an experience that is personal and interpersonal. This is not a religious study. This is not something that is hidebound. This is not something that is set in stone. This is an allowing of light to begin to express itself and to be nurtured in whatever way is appropriate for your being, a resonance, a frequency, a light-filled way. And to sense that joy, that gracious acceptance and understanding without the need to do anything but this. Is all that is necessary, is all that is required. And to see where it goes and to feel its presence and to accept its mystery and its beauty and its simplicity and its gracious understanding. And that this is everywhere, in everything. And we are that right here, right now. So be it. questions today.
I thought maybe ask you just to talk a little about elements, particularly water or...
I can see this. I can see this energy percolating through your being, and we have talked about this together. And it's important to understand the relevance of this in the context of what is being expressed through the beings of light that are beginning to reveal themselves as we do these sessions. For the connection and the interconnection with the elements is something that we cannot ignore, because we are fundamentally elemental beings. And although these sessions are focusing on the light and the experience of the light within and how it's beginning to almost pour out of our being and become alive in the outer expression of our being, it's important to see it in the context of the elements as they are being expressed at this point in time. And of course, where we live, there have been extreme examples of this in recent times, mainly involving water, to the point where we have been almost submerged by water, and in some cases, totally submerged. So it is an experience that is beginning to live with us as to, well, what is going on here? In our intellectual capacity, we're seeing it as essentially a human experience that we have created. But beyond that, there is a resonance that is moving through the planet that has its own momentum and its own rhythm and its own experience. And if we can become more connected into that rhythm and that movement, it will help us begin to evolve our own means of communication and understanding what the elements are doing and how we can relate to them in a way that is more healthy. For when the rains come and the cyclones build and the wind begins to howl, it's so easy to slip into that sense of catastrophe and build on that and make it into an experience that is even more terrifying than it may appear. And of course we are quite good at that. We are very good at creating an intensity that heightens the experience of what is unfolding. And I'm not saying that any of this is right or wrong. It's just a kind of fallback of human expression, something we're used to doing. But beyond this, there's another whole layer of information that is contained in the elements, and the water is something that is fundamental to our experience of this understanding, where we can begin to see the water as an element that is so powerful and yet so generous and so giving to life on earth. And of course this is fundamentally understood, but it's good to resonate with its presence and understand that it has characteristics that we can begin to work with and explore. For the watery element is obviously within us. And as such, it contains its own memory and field of resonance to which we can begin to listen to and experience as a light-filled way. It will resonate with the experiences of light that are unfolding from within us. It's natural because we are of this. We are embodied to experience this and to be with this. And as these changes and movements begin to express themselves on the earthly plane, it's good to have faith in this, to have some resonance that if we begin to listen, we can respond to this element with more creativity and more positivity and begin to change the ways that we are reacting and interacting with this particular element. For we think of it as being this amorphous sort of fluid element that when it's raging, we can't control it. And this is where the intensity of our feelings is, it builds and builds and builds. But really, if we can begin to have a conversation with the water and begin to understand its power and what it needs to almost help itself become more evident in our lives, so that it's not something out there that we see separately, but something that we flow into and resonate with in everyday living. That we become more fluid, we become more experienced in understanding the fluidity and the flow of our own lives. And this is a movement that can slowly but surely build a momentum as an experience. And then the fear begins to lessen. And we can take the heat from ourselves that we have created through our embracing of this potential, the way we see the potential for catastrophe, and begin to listen and be more attuned to what the water is doing and how we can work with it and change the way we do things. And of course this is a challenge, for we are habituated to behaviours of control, of controlling the flow of rivers, of controlling what the oceans are doing, or however else we wish to dominate and utilize the water on the planet. So it needs a complete change of resonance for us to begin to interact with water in a creative and intelligent way, and to begin to hear what it is saying, and the voice of the water, and the song of the water, and the dance of the water, and the rhythm of the water can then express itself through us. And we become more attuned to that, to the listening, to the hearing, to the feeling, to the sensations, and begin to change the way and the directions that we've been following over the millennia that are no longer serving us. And it helps us then also to move away from the destiny of doom that we are beginning to invest ourselves in, which is essentially counterproductive to the rhythm of not only the water, but all the elements in relationship to their universality, for they are expressing themselves on a universal level. And it helps us to move into this and see ourselves as universal beings, connected and contained and experiencing the elements in all of their majesty, in as a multi-dimensional experience. And that this will have no set form. It's not like we suddenly have the rule book and we can follow the rules and turn it into an intellectual experience. This is a sensational experience. It is an experience fundamentally aligned to the senses. And as such, we can begin to understand ourselves in relationship to this. And see the water for what it is, and to understand that the power of this is extraordinary. But it is also within us, and we are a part of that. We are inseparable from that. And this will help us understand and begin to form ourselves into behaviors that work with this, that have a tolerance to the elements, that have an understanding of the elements, and particularly to the water, the experience of water, and how it embraces us and reflects back to us what we are feeling and what we are doing. And of course, over time there will be more information coming through around this, around that relationship of stability and instability, and how we begin to understand that and move with it and experience it as a constant flow and rhythm in our own lives. It's a huge experience that we are indelibly a part of. There is no escape. There is no way of defeating it. There is no way of destroying it. It's good to begin a relationship.
How much of this relates to surrender? Is there anything to surrendered to.
I'm seeing this in relationship to healing, because that's the energy of the beings of light, the family that is and has been expressing itself through me. So it's that healing energy to which I am fundamentally experiencing and working with. So I see it as the potential for healing ourselves, for expanding the wonder of our own being into the elements and allowing them to become more available to us. And I'm sure surrender is involved in that, because there is, but the letting go and the surrender is essentially at this point in time related to our ability to unload the beliefs that hold us in place, that hold us in this restricted vision and understanding of who we are and what is happening and what we can do about it. So the surrender is to our ability to look at what we've created in our belief systems, personal and otherwise, so we can create space for the elements to be present. If we can't hear the music, if we can't hear the song and the dance and the rhythm and the experience and the language of the light as they are expressed through the elements, and how that this is not a universal methodology. It's going to be an individual as well as a collective experience. But what will facilitate it, and this is where the whole time and space element becomes important, because it needs space. And the time it takes depends on how much space we create and how much we surrender to that process of lessening the restrictions of the beliefs that we think are right, or supreme, or the best, or it's an evolutionary spiral of light that allows us to become more experienced in understanding. And that this is an open-ended process that involves the encouragement of our mind to become more aligned to this, where it can be utilized in the expression of light and love through our being. So the healing is in the experience of allowing our beliefs to be, first of all, to be seen and reflected upon and allowed to move, to change, to create the space for it's almost like a new language of energetic form to be expressed and experienced in our human relationship. But it's like clearing the clutter first. And that this is not, also it's not, we have this tendency to jump into these things and see it as well, we'll set a whole load of goals and make it into a competition, and someone gets first prize for whatever it is that we can achieve in however much time it takes. It's not, that's not something that is going to encourage us to be more spacious and open to relating to the elements as beings of light and through the light.
Is there anything else you'd like to share today?
One, I think it's important to see ourselves in the context of daily living, where this begins to become applied, where we remember who we are, and remember in those moments of where the tricky situations arrive, where we're in the mire, where we're confronted and responding in ways that are sometimes habitual, and just to remember that, oh, I'm a being of light. I have the choice to respond to this situation in a different way, in a way that's less painful, involves less suffering. And that the resolution is perhaps something that I don't even know, that can't be nailed down. And it's just putting that into practical effect in daily living, just to remember that, oh, I am a being of light. And in so doing, I allow myself the privilege of experiencing this moment with as much light as is humanly possible. See what happens. See how it unfolds.
Yeah, that's great, because I was going to ask, or just see what you thought you could offer to people to actually, in practical and daily life, to just be present and be as lighthearted and available as possible. I mean, service is overused, is the word that might be overused, but like, practically, what can people do?
I always in the expression of this healing work, as I've gone on and as it's been presented to me and as it presents itself when I'm sitting with people, it always comes down to simplicity. Because that's what allows our mind to not make a big thing, to not overreact, to not invent a whole story or make it into something that we think we should make it into. And the simplicity is just as using that as a reminder. Oh, I am a being of light. And in recognizing that, I become open to the experience of this situation in a different way. I can allow the light to have its say, to have its moment, which may be something unsaid.
Perfect. And finally, the artwork behind you today, we'll have a full session on, or do a session on the truth cards and everything, but just, is there anything you can share about the graphic that's behind you today?
Yeah, I sent this one through to you, and it's come from quite an early work of now quite a few years ago, and it's connected into they're essentially energetic representations of faith, and each of these drawings has words and energetic form in written word that goes with the drawing. But you can also just use the drawing as an experience of that by itself. So it's the visualization of an energetic form around faith and the depth of faith, and allowing faith to just be there, to not, we have so much, we can have a lot of clutter about, mention the word faith, and we can immediately go into everything that's ever been written about faith, but to really just let it have its spaciousness and to accept its fundamental resonance allows it to take hold and to begin to work its way through our being. Really without attachment. And so these drawings are representative of that, and they're really, they come through me as gifts from the beings of light that I've always worked with, that have always been there for me. And these ones, these two drawings I sent through to you today, I looked at them again and I thought, wow, that's... Because I haven't even really looked at that work for a good while, and it's almost a sort of joy to see them, because they have a resonance that is for me something that I can't even describe it. So I just leave it there for people to enjoy and make of it as they will, without overthinking it.